Hello everyone, and welcome back to Introduction to Cloud Computing. In this video we're going to look at a formal definition of cloud computing, and then we're going to flush this out with some more practical examples to really fill in all the details. So according to the official NIST definition, cloud computing is a model for enabling ubiquitous, convenient, on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources. These resources include networks, servers, storage, applications, and services. And all of these computing resources can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal management effort or service provider interaction. So that's really a mouthful. Let's tear this apart a little bit. So one of the things that's key is that you have a shared pool of configurable resources. This means that you're sharing the data center with other clients that are using those resources as well, and that's key because it drives the cost down of the data center. You're not having to pay for all of that hardware. And in terms of a physical data center, so things can be rapidly provisioned. Well, what does that mean? In a physical data center, if you're going to put in a new server, you're probably going to have to order hardware. You're going to have to cut a purchase order for it. It has to get shipped to the data center. Software has to get installed, the hardware has to get put into a rack. All this can mean weeks or months, particularly in a big company if there's a lot of overhead with that. Whereas in the cloud, you can do that in a matter of minutes, and it's easily done. So with a minimal amount of training, your staff will be able to configure and provision resources with a minimal of effort. And so that's really what cloud computing is all about. It's speed to market and convenience. So let's look at a few more practical examples to fill in the remaining gaps of this definition. So now let's look at some of the features of cloud computing systems. So some of the attributes are, the first one is that the delivery of services are on demand over the internet. So there's nothing special that you have to do to get to these services. The next feature is that you only pay for what you use, and this is really what's called a utility computing model. It's much like your electric service. You only pay for the power that you use. And so this really is a flexible model. If you're not using something, you can simply turn it off or delete it. It's a much more flexible model than having a physical data center where you're filling it up with hardware to meet maximum demand. Also, there is no startup cost whatsoever, so there's no long-term contract you have to sign. You're only paying for what you use, and if you provision a server, there's no fee to provision that server. You simply pay for it when you start using it. You can pay as you go, so there's no long-term contract that's required, so that's a great advantage. However, you can lock in a discount if you sign a long-term contract for resources so that you can negotiate lower prices by locking in a longer contract term. Again, lots of flexibility. And you can manage the entire operation from a web browser. So again, points to the flexibility of the cloud. You don't have to have staff with special equipment or special access. They can simply manage the entire operation from a web browser. In the shared infrastructure, we talked about in the last slide that this lowers the cost because there's a number of customers that data center cost is spread across, and it provides a kind of a slice of that data center cost that you are helping to lower the cost for all the rest of the customers. And it also provides a very high degree of availability. These data centers that are operated by Amazon and Microsoft and Google provide incredibly high degrees of availability as well as failover to other data centers that they own in case of a problem. So those are some of the main features. I hope that this kind of gives you a better idea, based on the standard definition in the previous slide. These are really the practical elements that really make cloud computing what it is today and why it's so popular and so many people are migrating to the cloud. Now we're going to look at the three basic types of cloud architectures. The first one, and probably the most well-known one, is a public cloud, and these are delivered over the internet and is publicly available. And so the examples of those include the three major cloud providers on the market today: Amazon AWS, Microsoft Azure, and the Google Cloud Platform. The next architecture is a private cloud, and in this case, an organization builds a private data center to provide services to their own organization. And so these services may be delivered over the internet or they may be delivered over a private network. But the key to a private cloud is it's dedicated to a single organization. And the last major architecture we'll talk about here is a hybrid cloud. And in this case, an organization uses a combination of both a public and a private cloud for services. And so there may be some things that they're hesitant, maybe from a security aspect or just a practical aspect, that they'll provide in their own data center, and then other services they'll deliver in the public cloud. And this is also a common architecture if an organization is just getting started with cloud computing. It will take quite some time for an organization to migrate fully to the cloud if that's their goal. But during that time frame, as they're moving services up to the public cloud, they'll operate the hybrid cloud and then potentially shut down their own data center at the end of this. So big corporations most extensively use this architecture, in that moving lots and lots of very complex and interconnected systems to the cloud very quickly is difficult. And so large organizations will use this, as well as having maybe multiple accounts. Maybe they'll do some business in Amazon AWS and perhaps some in the Google Cloud Platform, trying to get the best features of different vendors, and also not to be so dependent on a single vendor. So that's the three types of cloud architectures: the public cloud, the private cloud, and the hybrid cloud. So in summary, in this lesson, we looked at a definition of cloud computing. And cloud computing allows for the flexible delivery of computing services over the internet. And we looked briefly at cloud architectures as well, and the three basic models of those: the public cloud, the private cloud, and the hybrid cloud. That's really it for this lesson. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for your interest in this video. If you like this video, please click the thumbs up button. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing to my channel. That's it for now. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.